Hey, Kasim, welcome back to the show.
Jason, thanks for having me, man. Always a
Yeah.
pleasure.
Well, I went to your event and had a blast, and you did a talk on getting ranked with AI, because I think a lot of us are constantly going to AI more than Google. And so I wanted to have you on and kind of go through what you're seeing and what's changing like from even last week. You were even sharing something with me a little bit a while ago.
Yeah. So I own, just for context and maybe to buttress my arguments a little bit, I own the largest AEO community in the world. And I have a 6-member team that's done nothing for the last year but study how LLM source their citations. And so we have tens of millions of data points. I think it's fair to say I have more data on this than anybody else on the planet that I know, at least than anybody who's sharing. And so what I'm sharing this isn't guesswork. I realize it's confirmation bias built into lag indications, and that's the best that we can do. So that said, AEO is not SEO. That's the first and maybe most important thing. All the SEOs in the world are running around saying it's the same thing, just a different frame. It's not. SEO is link heavy. As a matter of fact, the number one key performance indicator for search engine optimization is link building, to the point to where that's why SEO.co and the Hoth and PosiRank exist. You just go buy links and then you give lip service to quality content. But anybody who does SEO at a high level knows link building. Uh, the thing about AEO that's really interesting is the single most important key performance indicator for being cited in an LLM, and AEO, by the way, stands for engine optimization, for those that don't know, is schema markup, which is super nutty, dude, because I didn't freaking know what schema markup was when we started this research. So I had to go back and remind, I built websites 20 years ago,
Yeah.
but if all of the citations that LLMs are drawing from have clean schema, and if you don't know if you have clean schema, just go to schema.org, and schema.org has a schema validator. And only 12.4% of websites have validated clean schema, which means only 12.4% of websites are making themselves visible to LLMs. Now, the question there is really interesting because it's not a question of optimization. You don't schema your website to optimize. You schema it just so LLMs can see it. And then the question of optimization, AEO relies on social mentions the way SEO relies on link building. And so if somebody says Jason Swank is one of the smartest agency thought leaders that I've ever known in a TikTok comment, and that somebody happens to be an authority in the agency space, that is the equivalent of, a link from Forbes that you used to fight for
Yeah.
when we were playing the SEO game. And so AEO is really interesting because answer engines actually have the wherewithal to begin to kind of see who other people are naming as authorities. And there's a massive shift here. One of the most important shifts to identify is that answer engines like people, not brands. So an answer is going to like Jason Swank a lot more than it's going to like, Acme Inc., your company, which is a problem for a lot of businesses, for me included, dude. I've got a portfolio of businesses, right? I own AEO.co, but I also have a staffing agency in Latin America, and I've got a mastermind, and I've got techstack.com. Like, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And so an answer engine looks at me and says, you can't really be an expert. I don't believe that you can be an expert in all 5 of those things. Where if there's somebody who's planted a flag and said, I only deal with optical lasers, and I went to school for optical lasers, and I wrote a book on optical lasers, and I have a podcast on optical lasers, and then you go to answer engines and saying, hey, I'm interested with questions on optical lasers, the LLM is going to say, this person clearly has the authority. But it's a person, not a brand, because a person can write a book, a person can get a PhD, a person can be an authority, a brand can't. So if you take that paradigm and you put it on a shelf, the next question we would ask ourselves is, what's the most important type of mention you can get? And the thing that is crazy, dude, and this is, you saw me give my talk at my mastermind. When I spoke at my mastermind, at the time, 20% of all AI-driven citations were coming from Reddit, which is a mind-blowing statistic because there's only 50 trillion websites on the internet, right? And yet 20% of all citations came to one website, came down to Reddit. It was actually 21%. That's a statistic that comes from Profound, and they did a study of tens of millions of citations and found that 21% of citations were coming from Reddit. Coming in at number 2 was YouTube at 18.8%. So there was a lot of consolidation. Now, here's what's funny. Is I ran around telling everybody, you got to learn Reddit, you got to crack the Reddit code. It's the only meritocratic content ecosystem on the internet. And 22 days ago, Google very quietly cut off 90% of the internet from AI. And they did it by changing the way the Google search graph is displayed. Now, when anybody, including an AI crawler, makes a query, you used to get 100 results. And that's what you saw as Google's infinite scroll. It just looked like you'd scroll and it would continue to get results. Google went back to the old way of doing things, which is just giving you 10 links. And when they did that, they cut off AI crawlers from deep research repositories, because page 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, et cetera, it's not that they're irrelevant, it's that they're relevant on deeper levels of context. So they might be less relevant to you, but they're still contextual relevance. And that's where Reddit really lived. And so we just saw Google take Reddit out back and shoot it in the back of the head. Now, I'm still really long on Reddit to the point to where they do that. And to put this in perspective, Reddit's stock went from $250 a share to $200 a share. Like, this is a massive, massive blow. And most people aren't even aware that it happened. But it speaks to this changing landscape and to the statecraft that's happening. We are in an information economy where all of these LLMs are desperate and thirsty and hungry for content to be trained on. And interestingly, there are two organizations in the world that I know of, and I'm a dummy, Jason. I have a 10th grade education. So maybe there's others out there that people want to educate me on. But from the outside looking in, as I look at this ecosystem, there are two organizations on the planet that actually own the content enough to be able to train an LLM. The first one is Amazon Web Services. Amazon hosts something like 30% of the front-facing website, and they have all that information on their servers. Now, it's technically, I believe, a violation of Amazon's terms and service to use that content. So they have it, they can't use it. I would expect their TOS to start to change, by the way, and people are going to see some of those legalese update. They're the second of the most important. The first is Google. Google has been crawling and, most importantly, caching the entirety of the internet since the advent of Google.
Yeah. And isn't OpenAI using Google? Like, they're like, why reinvent this?
Dude, so that's the problem. Yes, absolutely. OpenAI is using Google. That's where they were going for the Reddit feeds. And OpenAI doesn't have the computing power that would be necessary to cache the content. They went to Congress and asked for $12 trillion. Like, they're light, dude. They're nimble and they're having a hard time. So they don't cache, they crawl. So every new query, with some exceptions, right? I think it's a Pareto distribution, but new queries require the AI mechanisms to go out, find the information, and come back. But because it's so custom and so contextual, they're not keeping their own repositories of information. And here's Google saying, I've got the deepest well of information, and why would I give it to you? So Google's doing these things, which is actually really pernicious if you think about it, because how did Google get that information? They built AI crawlers that went and crawled the web for 20 years. And now all of a sudden, when other people are playing the crawl game, Google's going, no, I'm not going to let you do what we just had the luxury of doing. It's crazy. It's the hypocrisy is hysterical. And also, it's kind of like, well, they're playing statecraft, man. They're a $1 trillion brand and they're allowed to do that. But I'd ask everybody to pay a lot of attention to Google. I think Google's going to win the AI race. It's ironic that Google, if you think about it just from a timeline perspective, OpenAI pulls all these wicked smart people together, cobbles as much code as they can, and gets all this press, and then releases an AI-driven chatbot, and all of a sudden Google's, oh, we have one too. I'm sure they just made it that day. It wasn't sitting in some repository waiting, and then the Google image generation, Google video generation. Every single time, what Google does, Google's run by attorneys. So you notice that. What is that thing called? Banana Panda, whatever, Google, just their image generation.
Oh, yeah.
So that tool came out only after there were 3 cases that established legal precedents as to who owns what imagery and why. And then suddenly, Google waits. They wait for public opinion and legislation. And once they know which way the wind's blowing, then they offered the best image generation tool from an AI-driven perspective anybody ever had. So be long on Google. And nobody's favorite is Google right now. Everybody loves ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity. Dude, I swear to God, Gemini, like, people do not realize Google's rebuilding the knowledge graph from the ground up, and everybody else is relying on Google's old search graph. So that's my little soapbox for the day.
I mean, the first one through the wall is always the bloodiest, right? And we saw that with Apple. Like, Apple wasn't the first one to do an MP3 player, for everyone that doesn't remember MP3 players.
Right.
They weren't the first ones to do phones. They let everybody else go and just made it better.
Apple's innovated nothing. They didn't innovate the smartphone, the smartwatch, the tablet. Like, there's nothing they've innovated. They just they wait to see, after the dust settles, how do we make this functional and better?
Yeah. And I think with Google too, especially if you have an Android phone. I have an Apple phone, but I'm so tempted to go to Android because I see all the really cool stuff. I guarantee you, it's gonna all, and you already see the AI capabilities in that phone. Like
Yep.
when I look at my iPhone right here, and they go Apple Intelligence, I'm like, no, 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 this is like Apple stupidity because it's just horrendous.
Yep.
But I think we kind of I kind of got us off track a little bit. I want to talk about going back to what you were talking about with schema. And I think you on stage you made me think, because originally websites were designed and built to be found,
Mhm.
right? And to provide, resources to people. But I think you were the one that talked about some websites that you build now for the future won't be for us. It will be for the LLMs.
I'm rebuilding my personal website right now. I'm rebuilding it in Notion. It's going to look like a Craigslist ad or a Notion document. I think we're looking at a CSS-less website future. Eric Schmidt came out and said the screenless world is years away. Like the way we need to think now as content providers is from a screenless perspective. Something Perry Belcher taught me this: 55% of people under the age of 25 use voice instead of text. And what's interesting about that is all AI tools are trained to respond in kind. If you type at it, it'll type back. If you voice at it, it'll voice back. Voice-driven search and voice-driven queries require it's a paradigm shift. And speaking of schema, there's actually schema for voice answers. You can take a page and you can provide voice schema markup to tell an LLM, this is what voice schema should look like, or here's how to distill this from a voice perspective. 0.03% of websites have voice schema. And yet 55% of people under 25 and something like 40% of people just generally rely on voice to a tax relevant degree. And so people are not going to come to your website. That's a fact. That's already a statistical truism. Right now, 65% of all searches result in 0 click, which, dude, is insane. 65% of all searches result in 0 clicks. And the thing that data point doesn't give any credence to is the fact that it assumes that people are still searching. But if you took a population of 100 people, my expectation is that 10 to 20 of them aren't using search anymore. They're using answer engines.
Yeah.
And so 65% of all searches means only of the people left that are still searching. And the other thing that's interesting to the point you made about the Android phones, I bought my son's Chromebooks. They're 8 and 10. And I thought to myself, what are the skills that are going to be, not destroyed, like still on the horizon? And I decided it's learning AI, which has an event horizon, because at a certain point, you actually don't need to do that anymore, and building authority. So I bought them Chromebooks, and the agreement is they can use the Chromebook to teach other people AI and make their own YouTube channel, because I thought that's a good thing for 2 little 8 and 10-year-olds to do. I help them set up the Chromebook, and this thing blew my freaking mind, dude. When you set up a brand new Chromebook with a new Google account that has no history, guess what the default search engine is? And for those of you listening that don't know, Google owns Chrome. Google owns Chromebooks. So what would you assume, Jason, Google would make the default search engine on the brand new Chromebook?
Obviously Google.
It's Gemini.
Really? Okay.
And the thing that's funny about that is Gemini, number one, is not a search engine. Number two, has no ads at the moment, at the time of this recording.
Oh, it will.
Oh, it will. Yeah. But 80% of Google's revenue, 80% plus, is still coming from ads. And yet Google took its most important revenue driver off of the default implementation of its most important device, which just shows you where all of this is heading. And Gemini, the ad paradigm within Gemini is going to have to change massively, because you only get to put 3 or 4 ads on the top pack if you have 10 results. But if you're delivering somebody one answer, what does that do to the ad ecosystem? And, what are you and I as advertisers?
It would have to be something at the bottom, right? Like, so I looked up the other day how to fix a dishwasher rather than, find a appliance repair shop.
Right.
And so it showed me exactly how to do it, step by step. But below it said, like, you may also want to contact so-and-so, boom, 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 right? And I think that's what they'll sell.
I think you're right. No, I mean, it would have to be. And the question there becomes, AI has gotten so good that once it's taught you how to fix the dishwasher, how many people really end up wanting to contact so-and-so?
Yeah. Well, you got to think there's a lot of lazy people. They'll be like, well, they want to know, like, And I can only speak for myself. A lot of times, and even some of my old clients, right? They want to know how it works and how to fix it, but they're like, my time's worth more doing something else.
Yeah.
Let me just go find someone to go do it. Right.
Yeah. And then it makes you wonder too, what Google did from a search perspective is incentivize relevance. And so is the person bidding on that phrase, are they allowed to bid on it because they're also participating in the content ecosystem that teaches people how to do it?
Yeah.
That might be the unlock. Like if you really want visibility from Google, there's no such thing as behind the iron curtain or the firewall. Like you have to give it all away on the front end.
Well, think about it this way, right? I think history repeats itself. And when new technologies come out and you need people to adopt to it, you barely charge for it. Think about Uber. You remember Uber like 10 years ago? Like it was,
Oh, dude. Yeah. It was
so
crazy. It was a couple bucks to go just about anywhere. Like it was nuts.
Exactly. And I think the same thing is happening right now. They're giving us a hit or a little bump on cocaine, right?
Yep.
And then they're going to be like, hey, it's not $20 a month anymore. It is thousands of dollars, which is still probably cheaper than the workforce we would hire, right? But I think in the next year or two, that the price of technology for using all these tools are going to go skyrocket. But we'll all be trapped in it. We're using it.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And the space race is going to be fun to watch because it keeps shifting. Like I was so committed to ChatGPT for so long, and you know what? Claude's just better. And so you switch to Claude, and I'm committed to Claude. But you know what? Perplexity rolled out the first.
It changes every week,
and then I'm committed to Perplexity, and ChatGPT just caught up with the browser, and it's like, dude. And you have to be nimble, or you do end up being left behind.
Yeah. Well, when I discovered custom GBTs, I was like, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Right. Like, because I could take 12 years of data of doing all this and put it into a custom GBT and give it a role, an assignment, right? Because the biggest thing, everyone has all the same tools that they can use, but they don't have my data. Right. So it made it very unique. But what I realized when I was training that custom GBT, I couldn't download all that information once I uploaded it. So it made me start thinking like, and that's smart with, OpenAI, because they're like, well, now I'm going to hook Jason on ChatGPT so he can't go to Gemini.
Right.
But as I started doing that, I was like, all right, I'm going to train it again. But all of that information, I'm going to put it in certain folders and I'm going to create SOPs around it. So then I can train custom gems on Gemini, or I can train Claude or whatever new model comes out because it's my data.
Yeah, that's really smart, dude. I think very few people are as forward thinking as you are. And it's the data moat that's going to help people survive the obsolescence here. Sean Putty had this really good analogy. He called it the K-shaped economy. Mm-hmm. He said that, if the base of the K is now, it's the line in the sand, just the notice of the time. The upward trending leg of the K is 20% of people and businesses. And 20% of people and 20% of businesses are going to be so weaponized that their productivity will exceed demand. You will be able to produce exponentially more than any demand that exists, and you'll be so good. And then 80% of people are going to fall to absolute zero and be superfluous to the economic environment. And to be honest, it's just going to be universal basic income and stay at home to watch Netflix. And I don't even necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think there's a group of humans that in, whatever pseudo-industrialized world we live in have been left behind, right? It's like the artists and the sculptors and the writers and the painters and the actors, like they're not properly represented or respected. And so in this post-AI world, I think we end up in this really kind of like this third renaissance where people just do things for the sake of it. But guys like you and I, dude, we're in a lot of trouble because you either need to be one of the top 20%, which is going to be difficult. To be in the top 20% of anything is pretty tough.
Yeah.
Or just pack it in and hang up your skis. Like that just sort of is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's like anything, we have to adapt. And there's new jobs, like when the internet came out and the dot boom and we were designing websites, and everyone put a .com on it. Like
Yep.
it's the same thing happening now. Like everyone has an AI app.
Right.
Everyone has it now.
Yeah. Dude, are you vibe coding at all? Have you messed around with Lovable?
I haven't. I just hire really smart programmers to program our app.
Bro, I have an employee who just built, I won't say what it is just yet because we don't want to let the cat out of the bag, but there is an application that everybody in the event space uses that costs at a minimum 10 grand a year. We vibe coded it in a weekend and we're going to start giving it away for free.
Yeah.
Like there's a SaaSmageddon coming.
Oh yeah.
My ability to vibe code things, and we've got a vibe coding community. I don't know if I'm allowed to, it's absolutely free. Can I drop?
Yeah, go for it.
So vcinc.ai, vibecodeinc.ai. If you want to learn to vibe code, my big partners, Nuno Tavares and Yvonne Boonen, they teach people how to vibe code, how to build things from the ground up, how to get them out to the market. And they're building things that would cost 100 grand just to get an MVP out of, and they're doing it in a couple of hours. Like it's crazy.
It's nuts. I mean, when I need something in CSS done on the website, I'm like, and it's done in a matter of seconds.
Dude, schema markup. If you need to schema something, just go to ChatGPT and be like, I need schema.
Yeah,
there's really no excuse not to do all this.
Yeah, I listened to your speech. I was like, help me write schema on this. And boom, boom. And it was perfect. And then we implemented a whole process for all our blog posts that are our podcasts for that.
That's smart.
So we've got because, like you were saying, brands are going to hurt, but personalities are going to thrive.
Yeah.
And so that's how we positioned it. So, awesome. What's the name of the book? Where can people check out the book?
We just published the AEO blueprint. You can go to Amazon and buy it, or you can go to aeo.co/free and you can have it for free. And you can also join our free forever community. I've got a community of about 1,200 people right now that are all trying to crack the code on answer engine optimization. And a lot of the nuances are changing. Yeah. But the real key, and it's so funny, Jason, you've been doing this for as long as I've been following you. The real key is just building authority.
Yeah.
It's deep, deep, deep content.
Yeah.
Like, this race to the top of TikTok is a bad call for AEO because that's, an inch deep and a mile wide. You actually kind of want to go the other way, which is that's not the temptation. But if you provide deep content on whatever it is that you happen to be a thought leader in, the answer engines want and need that. And then just do a few technical things. Make sure that it's clean and transparent. Put content on multiple different, it's called multimodal content. Like if you're great at YouTube, that's awesome. Get your YouTube videos transcribed and turn that into a Medium article and a Twitter thread. And that type of triangulation helps the answer engines understand who you are and that you're the real deal. But the book that we published, I mean, it's not fluff, dude. It's 250 pages of deep research, and it's all data backed. So this is what we're seeing right now. And it's probably antiquated, right? It was antiquated the day we published it, and we'll continue to update it. But at the moment, we're seeing what really moves the needle. And we're back in 2004 as far, it's the 2004 search engine day. Imagine if you went out and started doing SEO then. Yeah. There's a confirmation bias that's inbuilt into the entire kind of thesis of search or answers, which is traffic means relevance. Relevance means ranking. Ranking means traffic. And you can see how that flywheel, once you start to rank, just perpetuates your ranking in perpetuity.
Cool. Well, awesome. Well, everyone go check out the book. And if you guys enjoyed this episode, make sure you like and subscribe. And if like I always tell everybody, there's two things that's going to separate you in the future: your data that you have, but also the network that you build of amazing people, because you by yourself can only do this much, but a network can do unlimited amounts. So if you'd like to check out our mastermind, go to agencymastery.io. And until next time, have a swank day. I hope you enjoyed this content. If you want more content like this, make sure you click on the link on the screen or check out your most popular podcast platform where the full episode is there. And until next time, have a swank day. What are you doing? Go check it out. Click on the link. I'll see you soon.